As we all know, Minecraft Java Edition has had a lot of distance limits throughout the years, but nobody ever talks about Minecraft Bedrock Edition and its distance limits, stuff such as the floating point bug, the stripelands, and even the farlands. So buckle up, because today I'm going to do exactly that, from the early days of Pocket Edition all the way up to modern versions. Let's begin. Just like with my last video on Minecraft's distance limits, we'll cover all these distance limits mostly chronologically. So before 0.9.0, or even after that, null style worlds for a little while, Pocket Edition used to only generate worlds in a 255 by 255 block area with an invisible and unbreakable wall around it. It seems like you can't actually get above that wall, right? Well, somehow, shockingly, you actually can. If you're at the wall and go above 128 or so, or above cloud height, you can literally walk on top of it like this person shows here. And apart from, say, the height limits at 0 and 128, that's the only real distance limit here. So let's move on to what happened after 0.9.0. Okay, so I was editing the video, and apparently I found if you go on a version of Minecraft Pocket Edition before 0.9.0, in a world that you're out, casually at the farlands on, it'll break how Minecraft in-dev did? Am I the first one to discover this? What the fuck, man? In 0.9.0, Minecraft Pocket Edition got an upgrade. What upgrade, you may ask? Well, for the first time, Minecraft Pocket Edition got infinite terrain generation. This blew open the door for a lot of distance limits to be discovered, and a lot to even be created. The first of which was the stripelands. Venom accidentally discovered these in 2016, and what he thought was Minecraft Pocket Edition farlands wasn't quite the farlands. However, we will actually get to those later. Anyways, this is what these quote-unquote farlands look like. These slices of terrain, called the stripelands, are actually caused by a floating point precision bug, which allows terrain to only be rendered every second block. But why does it only happen here and beyond? Why not 1 or 2 million or even a few 100,000? Well, it actually has to do with the way floating point itself works. I know I've explained floating point in the past, but I'll give you a refresher on it anyway. Floating point is what amounts to binary scientific notation if you think about it. 1 bit is for the sign, 8 are for the exponent, and the final 23 are the mantissa. Let me explain with, say, 1,048,576, aka 2 to the 20. How it works is you take the mantissa and put a decimal point at the very first digit so it looks like this. Then, this is multiplied by 2 to the power of whatever the exponent is, minus 127, as the exponent starts counting from the very smallest number you can use, which is 2 to the negative 127. In the case of 1,048,576, this exponent is 147 according to the bits. This is a fairly good system for representing numbers in my opinion, but there's one absolutely fatal flaw here. Because computers don't have infinite bits, you have to truncate the number somewhere, in this case at the 23rd digit after the decimal. This works fine at representing integers to values up to 16,777,215, which is 2 to the 24 minus 1, which looks like this shit right here. After this point, the exponent of the number according to the bits is 151, which minus 127 is 24. Remember how I said the mantissa can only represent 23 bits? Well, this is a problem. 24 is bigger than 23, who knew? So you can't represent every whole number anymore, and you're capped at every 2. This problem doubles every power of 2, leading to something I like to call the slice lands at 2 to the 25, or 33,554,432, which looks like this. This problem doubles at every power of 2 beyond it. Remember how I said this video is about Minecraft Bedrock Edition distance limits? Well, I actually kind of lied about that. We're also going to be including Legacy Console. So starting with the Xbox 360, PS3, and the Wii U, these 3 consoles are all capped at world sizes at 864 by 864, with the nether being literally 3 times smaller at 288 by 288. The reason? There just wasn't a lot of storage on these things, so they had to cap the worlds there. This also meant that the end on all of these were capped like this too, but the outer end islands and main end island were entirely different dimensions in the game's code. At each respective limit, there was just an invisible wall. If there wasn't, because this game's code is based off of Minecraft Java's beta code, the farlands would absolutely generate at 12,550,824. You just can't see them. In newer console editions like Xbox One, PS4, and Nintendo Switch, you not only have this classic world size, but also 3 new options, being small, which is 1024 by 1024, with another size of 352 by 352, medium, which is 3072 by 3072, with another size of 512 by 512, or a 1:6 ratio, and large, which is 5120 by 5120, with another size of 640 by 640, which is a 1:8 ratio. Well, except on Switch Edition. They don't have large as an option on there for some reason. On the new 3DS edition, the world sizes were small, capped at 672 by 672, with a 224 by 224 nether. Medium, capped at 1344 by 1344, with a 448 by 448 nether. And large, capped at 2016 by 2016, with a 672 by 672 nether. Also, as a little side note, in TU46, or Title Update 46 on the Xbox 360, there was a bug where you could bypass the barrier where blocks would just generate up to 2800 in either direction. Past 2800, the blocks would disappear, but the actual physics still work. This is fairly reminiscent of Minecraft in dev, where at anywhere from 2176 to 2560 blocks, the ground essentially just stops, leaving nothingness in its wake. I was going to end this section here, but during editing I found one more thing of note from somebody who linked me a video on Discord by somebody named /port. On Xbox 360 edition, if you fall into the void just over 2 to the 30, or 1,073,741,824 blocks, your game simply just can crash? I'm not exactly sure why, nor was the person who uploaded the video, but it seems to be some weird floating point conversion problem that I don't even know how to begin to describe. Another thing of note is that there's 8 separate crash points listed here that this dude found as well, and neither of us know why it crashes there. They don't even seem to be tied to powers of 2 at all outside of the first one. And the even weirder thing is, after this, while the map coordinates don't change anymore, you can still fall just fine, and nothing happens anymore, even down to 2 to the 1024 blocks down in the void. And on the first version where the end was added, the game just straight up crashed at 2,147,483,647, just like in Bedrock Edition. Remember a few minutes ago when I talked about the floating point and how it applied to every power of 2? Yeah, so that's what we're going to be talking about here. In every single version of Bedrock Edition and Windows 10 Edition, beyond 131,072 or even 65,536 or 32,768 in rare cases, you can start to notice a sort of jitter when you and other mobs simply walk around because your precision gets just wrong enough to be noticeable. At 32,768, your precision becomes 0.0039065. At 65,536, it becomes 0.0078125. At 131,072, it becomes 0.015625, or 1/64th at a block. At 262,144, this effect doubles to 0.3125, or 1/32nd of a block. At 524,288, it doubles again to 0.0625, or 1/16th of a block. And finally, at 1,048,576, if you get unlucky enough, you can literally fall through the world through normal gameplay as your precision drops to an entire 0.125 or 1/8 of a block. You could already force this at earlier distances though, no problem. Along with this, cacti start losing their shape for whatever reason, probably because the corners have 1 pixel, or 1/16th of a block sticking out of it and it can't render it properly. Regardless, at 2,097,152, or 2 to the 21, with 0.25 block precision, it becomes easier to fall through the world, but it's still fairly unlikely for you to do so, along with the flowers starting to lose their shape for likely the same reason cacti do. Because your crouch walk speed is so low, you can't walk beyond this limit while doing that either. And finally, at 4,194,304, you will very likely fall into the void unless you teleport, use ender pearls, or an elytra, unless you somehow get lucky enough to walk around without falling. The precision here is half a block, by the way. The last part before the stripelands is 8,388,608 blocks. 1 block precision. Things start to warp really bad here, especially things such as fences and any non-full block for that matter. Flowers become entirely 2D as well, and unless you get super lucky with a 1 in I don't even fucking know type chance, you will fall through the world no matter what. But it seems like we're missing something here. The farlands. We're missing the farlands. Just like in Java Edition until Beta 1.8, Bedrock Edition's farlands existed from the earliest releases until 1.17.20.20, but there's a lot of small, relatively subtle differences that occur. For starters, the farlands actually break down over time just like the Java Edition's fringelands, in literally the exact same way, and for about the same reason, which you can learn about in this video. Instead of capping out at 2 to the 1024, it caps out at 2 to the 128 due to the game being 32-bit. The separate points where it breaks down begin at 12,559,913 for the first degradation, 12,561,029 for the second, and 12,562,277 for the third. It even does the same thing it did on the Z-axis in Java Edition, where instead of distinct stages, it just slowly and gradually degrades until 12,758,545, where the farlands disappear entirely, like so. In fact, these fringelands, and actually the farlands at all, behave exactly like the Java ones in all aspects apart from the distances, minus the farther lands the selection noise can't break down in time. For the third time in this video, you can learn it with this video here. Here's where it starts to get insane. This is the corner farlands, aka the sky grid. This isn't just something broken in Bedrock Edition either, as the sky grid shows up in Java at nearly 42 septillion, like I showed in this video. Because Bedrock is 32-bit, as I said before though, this effect happens literally right at the start of the farlands, and mostly breaks down the same way it does in Java as well. The edge farlands repeating every chunk-ish is here too, just like how in Java it repeats every 256,000 blocks. And yes, it actually does that. I didn't know until doing research for this video. Another interesting thing is how on the negative axis, the edge farlands don't even generate. They just refuse to. The sky grid somehow does though, and I literally do not know why. I'm not even going to begin to try answering that. On Windows 10 though, none of this happens. In fact, from the earliest version I have, 0.14.0.1, to the version the farlands were removed, 1.17.20.20, the terrain just drops off into the ocean and nothing generates anymore, apart from structures such as villages, desert temples, ice spikes, and parts of mesa biomes. And just so you're aware, both the farlands and stripelands and all their effects happen in the end and nether as well, almost exactly. Chorus fruits also become 2D in the end as well, along the stripelands. The only real difference between the nether or overworld and the end, by the way, is the end farlands being squished to the X and Y noise scales, 171.103 and 85.5515 being swapped. I think that's incredibly cool. There's also one last thing that I'd like to cover, that being how at 9,991,000 blocks, give or take a little bit, the end generation does this for whatever the fuck reason. I'm not even entirely sure, and just so you're aware, this quite literally extends forever from this point, with the end islands overlapping each other in some way as I am showing here. Chorus fruits also generate. A lot more for some reason. I think it's like 6 or 7 times the density, so yeah. That's all Minecraft Bedrock, Pocket, Windows 10, and Legacy Console Edition's distance limits. Thank you guys for watching. Oh, also, thank you to all of my members, especially Kratos Messi and George Floyd, because they are tier 11, or tier 3, and tier 10, or actually tier 2 members. And also thank you to my other members as well. Bye. Also watch these videos, because I think they're pretty good.